Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to the Mindfulness Daily Practice. Our topic today is about meta-attention. So, what is meta-attention and how does it relate as well to meditation? How does it relate to what we've been talking about? So, we've been talking about neuroscience. One thing in particular is that the brain changes based on what we think, what we do, and what we pay attention to. This concept of the brain changing based on what we think, what we do, and what we pay attention to is called neuroplasticity. So we're going to focus today on attention. So as you focus your attention and as you observe things that are going on in the present and see what you're paying attention to in the present, you can start to notice how your attention works. And I think this is really interesting. As your mind is wandering away, when is the moment that you notice that your mind is wandering away? So I guess before I go into anything else, let's talk about meta-attention. What is meta-attention? So first, what's attention? So attention is where we direct the focus of the mind. So I think it's pretty easy to understand what you're paying attention to. So, maybe right now as you're with me, you're paying attention to what I'm saying. Or it's possible that you're trying to pay attention to what I'm saying, but your mind is elsewhere. Your attention is on something else. One example that I like to use when it comes to attention is about reading. So if you're reading, how long does your attention stay on the material that you're reading? A lot of times it has to do with how interesting you find that material. So if it's you're studying for a test, you'll find, or you're reading, you're a lawyer and you're reading through cases and you're reading through a lot of information, or you're a banker and you're reading through financial statements. This is something that might require more focus than leisurely reading a novel. So as you're reading, your attention stays with the material, and based on how engaging the material is, you'll find that over time your mind starts to wander away. And then at some point you go, oh, wait a minute, I realize I haven't been paying attention for the last 2 paragraphs or the last 2 pages. And then you have to go back and reread it. And you probably don't even remember where you lost your attention. Okay? This moment where you realize that your attention has wandered, this is the meta-attention. Meta-attention is attention of attention. So being aware of your own attention and noticing, and it's in that moment that you notice that your mind has wandered. This is your attention of attention. I think it's easier to explain it with this kind of book example than to try and talk through, what is attention of attention? How do I pay attention to my attention? So this is really kind of what it's like. So when you're, this moment that you've recognized that my attention has gone. So how do you do that? How does that even happen? And so this is a kind of a higher level, a higher layer of how your attention works. So, it's when we start to notice that that's happened. I think this is something interesting about human beings, is this kind of higher power feedback loop that we have. This more, this out here, this observing mind. And I think this is something that, as we train mindfulness, this is really what we're training. And I think this is kind of the real superpower. And I think when I first started meditating, I didn't realize what was happening. That there is actually this higher level version of me that is able to observe myself and my own mind. So it's like a I remember when I was explaining it to my father the first time that I noticed it, I called it Ryan Prime, right? It's Ryan Prime is out here observing Ryan. So able to see what's going on in real time. And it's really interesting that this kind of additional layer of observing mind. So this is meta attention. So when we have attention of our attention, when we can start to notice ourselves from this kind of third party perspective. And I think what's really interesting in talking from my own experience as well is that I think I didn't even realize that this layer existed. Maybe this layer was a really tiny sliver, imperceptibly small part of me. And as I started meditating, I realized, and that's even why I had a name for it. It's why I called it Ryan Prime, because previously this thing I hadn't even noticed existed. And so as I started meditating, I noticed that this became stronger, this ability to observe myself objectively. And as it becomes stronger, we have more power to see what's going on, right? I mean, this is this example that we've used in the last couple of weeks between stimulus and response. There's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. But how can you access that space if you're not aware of it? And so this is really where this power comes in. So starting to become aware of that space between stimulus and response through meditation practice. So as we continue training ourselves, as we continue training our meta attention, so we're seeing ourselves from that external point of view, so that we can observe ourselves, so we can be aware of when our attention is wandering away, when we're doing something other than what we're intending to be doing. And I think this is really, really powerful. Finding yourself, observing yourself when you're doing something other than what you're intending to be doing. And so this is the meditation process. So today we're going to do a sitting meditation. Before we do, just want to explain how meta attention works inside the sitting meditation. The meditation is, and it doesn't have to be sitting meditation. Any kind of mindfulness meditation we're doing has an aspect of training meta attention. So meditation is a 4-step process, and so just use the breath as an example. So in step 1, we're focusing attention on the breath. Our attention is fully focused on the breath. We're observing the entirety of the in-breath, the entirety of the out-breath. We're using physical sensations to drop into the present moment. And then, over time, and it happens with all of us, our minds wander away. And we start thinking about something else. Our attention is no longer entirely focused on our object of meditation. And then some moment happens where you recognize, my attention is no longer where I intended it to be. I'm thinking about something that's going to happen later, and I'm not focused on my breath or whatever it is I'm focusing on. And so that's the moment of meta attention. After we recognize the mind has wandered away, then redirect the attention back. And then focus on the breath. So this is the 4-step cycle of our meditation process. Focus on the object of meditation. The mind wanders. Notice the mind has wandered. Refocus the attention. So this is the challenge for today. So be aware as best you can every time the mind wanders. Remember your intention to stay focused on the object of meditation, which today will be the breath, and keep coming back to the breath. It doesn't matter if you lose your focus 100 times, 1,000 times. This is normal, it's natural, it's part of the meditation process. You haven't failed, you haven't done anything wrong if your mind wanders. This is a integral part of our practice. This noticing the mind has wandered away is very, very powerful. So, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get into our seated practice today. Get yourself comfortable. I'll interact with the chat once our meditation's over. So find a comfortable seated posture, and would encourage you to use one that is wakeful yet relaxed. Why wakeful? Because when you're in a wakeful posture, you'll find that you can focus your attention a bit easier. And why relaxed? Because of this balance. So that we're not too intense. We don't end up causing strain in our muscles, in our bodies, and our minds. If you like, you can allow your eyes to close. And as we get started here today, let's take 3 deep breaths together. So after your next exhale, let's inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Another one. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now let your breath return to its natural pace. And let's focus our attention on these physical sensations that let you know that you're breathing. So where do you feel the breath? And so for me today, I can feel my breath at my belly, can feel the expansion and contraction with each breath. Can you feel the stretching of the skin? The movement of the clothing across the skin as the body changes shape. Maybe you can even feel the tension and relaxation of the diaphragm itself. Perhaps the rib cage as it expands and contracts with each breath. And what about the shoulders? Are they moving as you breathe, or are they still? How about the nostrils? Can you feel air moving through the nostrils as you breathe? Cooler air as you breathe in, warmer, more humid air as you breathe out. So where do you feel the breath most vividly, most prominently today? And so if you're not sure where the breath is most prominent, most alive and accessible for you, just bring your attention back to your belly. And if your belly as a whole is too large an area for you to pay attention to, maybe choosing a point 2 fingers above the navel. Just feeling that spot on the belly as it expands away from the spine. The distance between the surface of the skin and the spine is increasing as we breathe in, and decreasing as the belly collapses back towards the spine. So now, as best you can, keep your attention focused there, wherever you've chosen to monitor the breath. And at some point you may realize or notice that your mind has wandered away. Maybe you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about the past, you're in some kind of fantasy, or maybe your attention has been pulled away by something in your environment. A sound, a physical sensation. Each time you notice your mind has been pulled away, just take a moment to notice that moment. Aha, my mind has wandered. And then come back. Return the attention. Immerse your attention fully in the physical sensations of the breath. So often when we listen to guided meditations, we're waiting for the instructor to bring us back to to remind us to come back. One of the real powers in mindfulness meditation is learning to do that yourself. Just noticing, my mind has wandered. Okay, I'm coming back, fully resting my attention once again on my object of meditation. So see if you can do it. It's just a few more minutes left in our meditation. I'll leave you in silence to work on yourself, to work by yourself. Now the time has come for us to draw our practice to its close. So I'll ring the bell 3 times. After the sound of the bell disappears from your awareness, feel free to move your body in any way you like. Stretch out, transition out. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for practicing with me today. Thanks for being here with the rest of us. How'd it go? How's your practice today? Feel free to write in the chat. Any questions as well about metta attention, and what did you observe today? Did the topic of metta attention itself help you understanding kind of how metta attention works? So I'll look through the chat here. Yeah, the example of reading. I think, yeah, this is a good example. That's one. I'm just looking for a relatable example, something that everybody can go, oh, yeah, right. Okay, now I get it. I understand what meta-attention is. Rachel says, sometimes I notice I'm being mindful of how I do something. And that's interesting too, right? This being aware of our mindfulness. And you know, that's what's interesting, right? I'm like, how many layers are there out here? You know, can you be, you know, is there like attention of attention of attention? And I think this is, you know, really what is interesting about the mindfulness practice too, is we as we kind of peel the layers of self, and kind of, you know, it kind of naturally asks this question, like, what am I anyway? You know, what is the me? You know, I mean, how do I observe myself? Like, this is interesting, right? It's funny. You can hear me breathing. That's funny. I guess I didn't realize I'm breathing so loudly. Sorry about that. Yeah, Frank. I know Frank. Frank is like he's the distraction king. You know, maybe I should lock him up so that he isn't so distracting. He's the cameo, the cameo star of the show. Barbara says, I observed that my attention span was very short today, but I noticed the wandering quicker than my normal. That's very interesting. Thank you, Robin. Good to be here with you all, for sure. Jean says, watching the watcher. Yeah, how is that? Suzanne shares, had a weird meta moment today and made myself laugh when I had already brought my attention back and realized that my meta hadn't caught up with noticing that. How can that be? How can that be? Maybe I need to like clear my nose out before I meditate or something, so that it doesn't make any sound. Thanks, Liz, for sharing and noticing. Kate shares, some days I just find focusing on the breath boring and my thoughts more interesting. You know, that's me every time I meditate. I always want to follow my thoughts. It's, you know, this is it's a practice to observe loneliness and boredom as well. Like, these two things show up. Meditation can feel really boring. And this is why the invitation for curiosity. You know, this is a new breath. This breath has never happened before. This breath is unique. So bringing curiosity can kind of help a bit with that boredom, but it never makes it go away completely. Certainly my thoughts are a lot more interesting than following my breath. So this is a challenge. Meditation is not easy. Distractions help us notice that we're distracted. Thank you, Jean, for sharing that. And that's really, you know, that's simple but powerful. You know, why meditate? So we start to notice these distractions. You start to realize, wow, I'm distracted a lot. There is a large percentage of the time that I am distracted. If I'm distracted so much and I'm not noticing my distraction during meditation, how often is it happening in my regular life? And so this is really interesting as well. I do think tomorrow I'm having, I just wanted to take one more day tomorrow to talk about mindfulness in daily life. So this is just, we only had a couple days a few weeks ago to talk about mindfulness in daily life. Just want to use tomorrow to check in with you. How's that going? And to use today's practice as just kind of a springboard into that. So if you're losing your attention and you're noticing that you've lost your attention during your meditation, what's real life like? And so this is kind of your challenge for today, so that when we come back tomorrow, what percentage of your time do you notice when you are not focused on the thing that you're intending to be focused on? And so I just want you to challenge you today to give that a try. And when we come back tomorrow, let's see how it went. Were you able to notice? Don't worry about losing focus. Instead, can you be aware of the moments that you've lost focus? So give it a try. Thank you, Rachel, for your donation. I know, and Gene says, talk about Ryan Prime. He's like his own superhero. That's how I described it too in that time. I'm like, I feel like I've unlocked some kind of superpower. There's some kind of innate superpower that we all have that is just waiting to be unlocked. And once you start meditating, you can start to unlock this kind of superpower, this meta attention, that you can start to see yourself through this kind of clarity, this awareness, the watching the watcher. And I can't even describe it. It's something that you really need to experience for yourself. And Jordan says, I am an impulsive tangent taker and mindfulness seems to help. I'm still searching for my cape. Haven't I don't know. Maybe it's like at the 10,000 hour mark, right? Once I've meditated for 10,000 hours, they give me my cape. Still waiting for it. We'll see. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here today. We'll be back tomorrow. To talk about mindfulness in daily life and how meta attention applies. So come back. Hope to see you then. Meditation, as always, has been recorded, so you can go to the big movie or video site on the web and see the recordings. So if you've missed anything, you want to review anything, you want to do the meditation again, it's there. Let's close with some well wishes. So wishing well for ourselves, wishing well for each other, wishing well for all of humanity. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening right now, wherever they may be, I wish them all happiness and peace. And may all of humanity, all human life, near and far, big and small, satisfied or unsatisfied, may we all be happy and peaceful. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.